Hey, Upshot listeners, Charlie here. Just wanted to check in with you briefly before the show you're about to hear, our Open at Austin preview show. So right before we started recording this morning's show, I happened to check in on the Prodigy lawsuit against Gannon Buhr and saw that they had withdrawn a portion of the lawsuit. Now, when we talked about it here in the show, I said that they had fully withdrawn the lawsuit entirely. That is not true. What they have done is they've withdrawn their request for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. Those are sort of more immediate measures filed with the court they were trying to get Gannon Buhr to not sign with a competitor manufacturer. So although they have withdrawn that, the actual original complaint itself is still pending. Now, this is obviously a de-escalation, and a lot of the things that we talk about in the show are still relevant, but it is not true that they've completely withdrawn the lawsuit. So I just wanted to make sure that that was nice and clear here in the episode itself. Also, just want to note that although he is still registered on the PDGA page, we are getting word that Ricky Wysocki will be withdrawing from the Open at Austin this weekend, continuing to deal with the wrist soreness and swelling. So that is going to be the third Elite Series event in a row that Ricky will miss. Perhaps something could still change. I mean, he is still registered, but the word is that he will be withdrawing along with Valerie Mondahano, who's still dealing with her ankle injury. So just wanted to give those updates. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. It is Thursday, March 16th, and tomorrow begins the Open at Austin, a quasi-brand new tournament on the Elite Series. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined by Josh Mansfield. And Josh, you know what else today is?
What else is today?
What is today? Today is the start of one of the great sporting events in really the entire world, but certainly in the United States. March Madness is off and rolling. And even if you're like me and you pay literally zero attention to college basketball until today, it's still amazing. As soon as noon rolls around, TV's going on. Going to be watching some teams I know nothing about. Going to get hyped up. And so, Josh, I propose we do something a little special today.
Okay.
A March Madness bracket for our Open at Austin preview.
Oh, okay. Is this where we just talk about basketball teams and pretend a tournament's not happening? Or
That's exactly right. We're going to go through all 32 of the opening round matchups. We're gonna do a whole bracket. It's going to be a 4-hour show.
Welcome, everybody. This is now a basketball podcast for the rest of the week.
I thought you were going to say Smashbox, but I love you, Johnny V and Terry. Okay, so lots to get to today. Brand new course, temporary course. Basically, nobody knows much about it except what we've seen in these practice round videos. So we'll get into all of that in our bracket. Of course, we'll also have our picks, our over-under as well at the end of the show. And looking forward to seeing what this brings. And it should be fun to see what Austin brings as well. We'll talk about that. So without further ado, let's get into the bracket. We're going to do just 16 categories, 16 teams, quote unquote, in our bracket. And we're going to go division by division, 4-team, sort of regions, just like we see in the tournament. And we'll kind of pick a winner from each region, and then we'll have the final four and discuss. So, Josh, we begin in the, where should we start? I think we should start in the fan bracket. The fan bracket. First matchup is ticket sales, on-the-ground ticket sales versus final hole DGN streaming issues. So we begin with ticket sales. And Josh, I'll just let you know, I pulled it up, the Eventbrite page for the Open at Austin. They're close to selling out completely. All of the VIP tickets have sold out. All of the single-day VIP passes have sold out. The 3-day general admission pass is sold out. Basically, there's a few tickets left, general admission, less than 30 remaining for Sunday, and there's 3 remaining general admission passes that come with a Lone Star disc, the presenting sponsor this weekend. So excellent ticket sales. Based on what I looked at Waco last week, this is better overall. Now, I don't know the total quantity of tickets that have been sold, but this seems like we're going to be close to, if not completely sold out this weekend.
And this goes up against Final Hole Disc Golf Network.
Yes.
Meaning this has been 2 weeks in a row where on the MPO side, the spike in viewership, we talked about this on Tuesday, has created a point where a lot of people have missed critical action on hole 18. I remember some people from Vegas saying they didn't get to see Kevin Jones playing hardly at all, that they saw very little of hole 18. Last week, a lot of people said that they missed Kyle Klein's putt and Adam Hammis's putt as well. So those are kind of the reference then.
I will just quick note for you before you give your take here.
Okay.
I talked to some folks over at DGN.
Okay.
They have discussed with Vimeo. Vimeo assures them that they have worked on the issue and that they're highly confident that it won't be a problem again. They're also going to have an engineer available during the Sunday final round. So obviously everybody at DGN is upset about this, and Vimeo is supposedly made the changes necessary to accommodate the additional traffic of people trying to watch the end of the round. So we'll see.
Okay, good news.
Yep.
So here's what I'm going to say then. Unless the ticket sales and numbers were something like 10,000 tickets, right? Some just obscene number of tickets that sold out. I think it's becoming more commonplace that tournaments, and like you said, Waco didn't, but it's becoming more commonplace that tournaments are selling out or getting close to selling out.
I will say, I don't know what the final ticket sales situation was for Waco. And the crowds were awesome. So it's not like...
And the crowds were awesome,
It wasn't bad by any stretch.
No, it wasn't. And the other thing that I would include in that is I think when a Pro Tour event goes to a new city, the excitement around it and the draw of getting people to come, even from a couple hours away, I think it increases. This is, I think, been my experience. I'm in all the Facebook pages around Montana disc golf, right? And Idaho disc golf as well. Just keep an eye on tournaments and things. And the number of people who are just already purchased Zootown Open, a silver event tickets, because they're so thrilled that the Pro Tour is coming through Montana, is just, it exploded. So I think when you have a new city, you get the draw and appeal of fans who otherwise wouldn't be traveling to go see an event. Combine that with, I think, overall just very strong spectator sales from what we've seen on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. This is par with the course, it feels like. Unless, again, the ticket numbers are crazy. The Final Hole Disc Golf Network, though, whether it's fixed or not, is going to be a storyline this weekend. People are going to be talking about, oh, congratulations, DGN, we actually got to see hole 18. Or it's going to be outraged by people if this problem isn't actually fixed. So for me, I think Final Hole DGN is the one I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
All right, so we're just... you get the pick in this round. I get the pick in the next one. So give us the next matchup, Josh.
All right, next matchup. Lone Star Spotlight. For feature cards, now this is a Lone Star sponsored tournament, but in feature cards, Lone Star represents half of your feature card players. You have Nico LaCastro, Emerson Keith, Lisa Fakis, and Deanne Carey all on feature cards for round one. So Lone Star getting a lot of exposure here. And this goes up against the Jomez FPO bump. We went and pulled numbers. In 2022, GK Pro covered final round of FPO lead card.
Yes.
And their final round back nine video, as of right now, has 40,000 views on their YouTube page.
From Waco last year.
Waco last year, yep.
40,000.
Jomez, Jomez 2023 final round back nine, which has only been up for 1 week, is at 70,000 views. So nearly double. Right now, it's pulling about half of what MPO does on the Jomez page, but still a significant bump over GK Pro. So there you got it. Lone Star Spotlight, Jomez FPO bump.
Mostly I put Jomez FPO bump in this because I wanted to talk about it briefly. I don't really think that this is a particular storyline for Open at Austin. I do think this shows that there's a bunch of things I really like about this. We never really got financial details from the Pro Tour about Jomez taking over the FPO coverage. Maybe there's been some money rebated back to Jomez, obviously. But it was great to hear Jonathan Gomez at the industry conference talking about, we're going to do exactly the same level of coverage, number of cameras, focus and intention on the FPO coverage as we do on the MPO coverage. I think they've also made the right choice with their commentator hire. Two hot geese. I mean, that's what people wanted. That's what they got. And obviously, having a bigger channel, having a professional, just really pleasant to watch experience makes it so that I think it's going to continue to trend well above GK Pro's numbers. Now, of course, they have 4 times as many subs or something like that. So that makes sense as well. But I think it's great because I think the FPO stories this year have been fantastic already. I think it was the more interesting division last week with the Kristen Ella battle down the stretch. And, for me, the FPO storylines have really been kind of more interesting than the MPO storylines for the most part over the last year. Maybe that's because I commentate a lot of FPO, so I feel like I'm a little bit more in it. But just speaking for myself, not that I don't enjoy watching MPO, of course I do, but I think it's a notable thing. But it's not going to win this in this category. Ultimately, I have to go with the Lone Star Spotlight because I think this is the first time that we're really seeing Lone Star on the big tournament stage. Not only with a bunch of players on the lead card, but they're their tournament sponsor. They're going to have a ton of presence at the event. How does all of that go? Is everything nice and smooth, or are there bumps on the road for this tournament? Time will tell. But I think that this is, Lone Star trying to jump up into the big leagues. And it's not just sponsoring players. It's also becoming a major sponsor of a Pro Tour event and, up against other Texas manufacturers even. So interesting for me to see that. So that means that, Josh, it's Lone Star versus Final Hole DGN. I think for me, it's clearly Lone Star.
I agree.
Okay. So
I think, the chance that this is resolved and we kind of know what we're getting. Now, I'll say if we get like USDGC 2 years ago crash in a playoff hole for DGN, maybe it's misplaced. But as of right now, I agree with the Lone Star Spotlight.
Okay, let's move over to the player bracket. And you know what? Let's just kick it off with a classic. Ella Hansen versus Kristen Tatar. This is just it's not necessarily picking who you think is going to win, just like what's the story that you're following this week, Josh, and what do you make of each of these players heading into Open at Austin?
Kristen Tatar started Waco with a course record and an excellent round 1.
9 under.
Yes, very, very strong round. Then proceeded to play very meh in round 2. And slightly better than meh in round 3,
with an epic close,
with an epic close that she didn't know was happening. I am watching to see if Kristen is back and can do 2 or 3 rounds in Kristen form. Are we going to see similar struggles where it just seems like Kristen isn't quite on point and uncharacteristically missing like 25-foot putts sometimes in the final round, right? I mean, those are things that are probably rust, but it felt so weird that we were like, man, is there going to be rust? And then she shoots a course record and then the rust hits. So it would have made sense if it was flipped, right? Really bad round 1, really bad round 2, shoots the course record to win round 3. Okay, that makes sense now. This didn't make as much sense. And so I'm going to be watching to kind of see what happens. However, I still think the Ella Hansen storyline is the most interesting. Couple of reasons why. Number 1, this course is on a golf course, but it is one of the shorter courses on tour. Let me pull the numbers real fast for you. MPO is 8,700 feet. FPO is 7,900 feet. Par 61, 62 respectively.
Rare to hear about a golf course with that kind of length. We'll talk more about it in our next bracket.
What's included as well, though, is it's also very technical, according to Jeff Spring, tournament director and previews of this course. Ella has played well both at LVC and now at Waco, a course that nobody expected her to play well on. And I'm really intrigued to see, because I think if Ella plays strongly on another technical course that is also a golf course, she shows us that she probably has one of the most well-rounded games, and it's just the mental game that she needs to work on. And her, like, the skills are all there to win on any type of course. It feels very Eagle-esque to me when we said Eagle can't win in the woods. And, you know, the narratives around Ella were, well, she's at a competitive advantage because of her distance. And if you take that away, she isn't as competitive. I think this weekend is a chance that we really have to start thinking, like, putting that narrative to bed, because Ella is showing us on any course she has the capability of playing very, very well.
Okay, what's my matchup?
On the MPO side, number one is Calvin Heimberg. Does early player of the year favorite Calvin Heimberg, way too early player of the year favorite Calvin Heimberg, continue to have his strong play? A shorter technical course, but still on a golf course, seems like it sets up well for Calvin's game, so it'll be good to watch him. The other side is Gannon Buhr, who, as a player, has not had an on-course performance, has not, I think, had the year or the start to the season that we really expected. He's not playing great, and I mean, yeah, it makes sense, right?
So I mean, what are his results so far? He's sitting at 41st in the Pro Tour standings. He finished 30th at LVC and 24th at Waco. He does keep his top 30 streak alive. He and Kyle Klein, the only two players to finish within the top 30 over the entirety of 2022 and 2023 at the Elite Series and Majors. He barely did it, but he did it.
He barely did it. So some of you might be asking, like, why are you picking Gannon when he literally has matched, like, his two starts were his worst finishes of all tour last season?
Well, let me tell you, Josh.
Tell me, Charlie, why are we talking about Gannon right now?
Let me tell you. So, of course, Gannon has been embroiled in controversy and discussion around this Prodigy lawsuit. Yesterday, Prodigy, and this may be breaking news when I say it here on the podcast, or it will have already been published in an article by me later today. Prodigy has withdrawn the lawsuit from federal court. They have dropped the entire thing. They said, legalese stuff. I mean, I'll read it to you. Why not? Here's what it says. Based on a temporary understanding between plaintiff and defendant, that is Prodigy and Gannon Buhr, to maintain the status quo between them, Prodigy hereby withdraws without prejudice its motion for temporary restraining order, preliminary injunction, and a hearing. The plaintiff reserves the right to refile its motion should it become necessary, and reserves all rights and claims relating to or arising out of the conduct at issue in its motion. So there has been some kind of settlement or agreement to drop the lawsuit. At the moment, we don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. I will say there was a moment in the Brody and Ezra practice round video where Gannon was stepping up to the tee and he said, "Nobody look at what disc I'm throwing." Now, knowing Gannon, he's kind of got a little bit of a troll vibe sometimes. It might mean nothing, but maybe there's something there. And certainly, regardless of what is next, regardless of whether he throws Prodigy the rest of this year, if he makes a bag change, we see a new sponsorship announcement, there's a lot of potential outcomes here that are all extremely interesting. And if nothing else, maybe the fact that this is settled is weight off of his shoulders. At least there's clarity now. And so I want to see what it looks like when Gannon plays without that stress. So to me, that's very interesting. And I have to say, there's got to be questions about it in the press conference. And like, to me, this is for sure the storyline to watch, even more than Calvin Heimberg, who I think could win this tournament.
And like you said, the temporary agreement on the status quo, I think that could mean a settlement where Gannon gets bought out. It does not mean, okay, Gannon is maintaining,
don't know anything,
throwing Prodigy for the season.
I've sent messages to all of the relevant parties. And at this point, because I sent the messages 20 minutes ago, I have not heard back. So and I may not hear back. Maybe there's NDAs. Maybe there's, we don't know.
It is 9 a.m. Eastern. We found this 30 minutes ago.
Yes. The filing was yesterday in court. So anyway, exciting. For me, Josh, Gannon should go to the Final Four.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. Because it's a player storyline that I think transcends any on-course performance this weekend.
Okay. On to the next bracket. It's the South. Well, let's do the health bracket here. We're going to do the health bracket.
All right.
And we'll finish with the South by Southwest bracket. Okay. The health bracket. We have in our first matchup for Josh's deliberation, Ricky Wysocki versus Simon Lizotte. As of this moment, 9 a.m. Eastern Time Thursday, when we were recording, Ricky is still registered and set to play his first Elite Series event of the season. He's been dealing with the wrist flare-up, probably from his Lyme disease, that he's been suffering with various flare-ups over the course of the last couple of years. And he's going up against Simon Lizotte, who, of course, has been dealing with on and off injury issues. And when he came off of LVC, was dealing with some elbow soreness. Had already planned to take Waco off, but now he's back in the field for this Open at Austin. So two players kind of both coming off of not necessarily debilitating injuries, or even really necessarily what you might call an injury in the case of Ricky, but some questions about their health. Where do you go here?
I think my natural reaction is to pick Ricky. However, that being said, I think Ricky's injury is one that, you'd rather have the devil you know than the devil you don't. And with Ricky, he knows what it's about, right? He knows where it's from. He knows the source. I think he is experienced with the recovery times. And I want to say it's, overall, it's not very limiting, right? He's going to miss some tournaments. It'll heal. And then he's going to go on as if nothing changed. His ceiling never drops because of a flare up. At least that's my perception of it. Correct. Every time Simon gets hurt, I am going to ask if I think his ceiling has dropped as a result. And that is a question that we don't have an answer to yet, that we won't know until we see at the Open at Austin. If he throws one really, really full power ante shot, does the elbow soreness just come back? Because if so, Simon's ceiling drops, and you have to consider that every time. I'm not saying that is what has happened so far, but given the nature of Simon's injury, the question around longevity and residual impact and how that affects Simon's game moving forward is a bigger question mark to me, and what I will be paying more attention to this week, whether or not Ricky plays. And so Simon gets the bigger storyline for me.
I will just say, I think Simon's already proven to us that he can overcome it. Isn't that what last year showed us? After years of basically missing tournaments and time and struggling mightily and looking like maybe he was never going to get back to the level that we saw back in 2018, he comes out and he wins 4 Elite Series. And so I'm definitely not going to overreact to him. It's not like he withdrew, right? He played the tournament. He was just I'm dealing with a little soreness because I've been throwing a ton to try to learn these new drivers, and played hard at All-Stars and then, long bomber, big shots at LVC. I don't know. I think my arm would be sore too. Sure. But I also think, number one, how many full power throws does it take for Simon to get sore? Is that number less than it was last year? I don't know. And number two, you're right. He played and he took second to last after cash line, or after the cut line. So he makes cut and then takes the second to worst place he possibly can with an outrageously poor round. So he finished kind of I guess a Formula One car could probably roll across the finish line with 3 wheels as well. And they technically finished, but I'm hesitant to say that was confidence inspiring because he got through it. So I want to watch Simon this week. Interesting. I would have picked Ricky in this category, but it's your choice. What's up for me?
On your side, we have Eagle McMahon. Eagle is still limited, but is kind of incorporating forehands. And so while I think it's a little bit different in Simon's injury of is he still actively injured? It's how is that affecting this choice of game? And then number two, going up against Valerie Mondahano, who is currently registered, but you were telling me, Charlie, that you have information that she has dropped as of, or indicated that she will be dropping as of last night.
That's right. I can't say it's like 100% official because I didn't hear it from Valerie, but my understanding is that she will not be competing this weekend, and she's made no indication yet on social media about that. She withdrew late from Waco as well. And so it's not a surprise to see that she's still on the registration page. I assume that she's going to try to stay registered as long as possible for all of these events because she wants to get back out there as soon as possible. But I don't think she's there yet.
Okay. As of 9 a.m. Eastern, Thursday morning, she's still on the PDGA page, but we have been told that they don't think that she is playing.
Correct. So, I mean, I think this one's fairly straightforward for me because Valerie's not playing. The answer has to be Eagle. And mostly just, it's not really that Eagle's dealing with something specific or new or anything like that. Eagle's in the same place that he's been in. I want to see, can Eagle start to get sharp? Waco, never really his tournament. Not really worried about the fact that he didn't play great there. He even put on his Instagram, this tournament has threatened my cash streak like every year for the last 3 years. It's just, sometimes you just don't like a course and it's just not for you. But then he bounced back and he actually had 2 pretty darn good rounds in rounds 2 and 3. Can he put it together for multiple rounds in a row and rise back up to that top 5 player that we know that he can be? That's something I'm going to be looking for this weekend. This is certainly less wooded than Waco, but it still has some technical wooded shaped lines, although there's a lot more airspace to play with. I think it sets up better for Eagle in that sense from what I've seen of the course. And so certainly somebody to keep an eye on this weekend as we see, like, when is Eagle going to start to feel like he's back to being Eagle? I don't think we've seen it yet. Really, we haven't seen it in 18 months. Except for European Open.
Yeah.
Which was like this fever dream.
That's
crazy.
I think that's such a good description of that tournament.
Okay, so for me, I think Simon versus Eagle. Man,
the Crush
Simon
Boys are
versus
back.
Eagle. It's a weird thing, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh? Who goes to the Final Four?
Man, it's because it's so funny because like when I've looked at Eagle this season, I'm like, whatever, like it's early season Eagle, he'll be fine in just a bit. But you're right about the 18-month thing. That made me stop and consider it a little more. I still have to go with Simon.
I agree.
Though.
I agree because Eagle's gonna progress over time.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't played that many competitive rounds lately, so like it's gonna take him some time to get back up into the swing of things. Simon, on the other hand, it's like all these crazy things. Like, well, how's the elbow? Does he's, are we going to start to see him look right? Are we going to see his control over the new discs look better? All that stuff. Okay, Josh, we go to the South by Southwest bracket. And of course, the reason it's South by Southwest in Austin right now. One of the biggest music /tech/art festivals. I bet it's weird. I was actually I read an article. There was somebody, a tech leader, CEO, was at a panel, and this was last week, and she spent the entire panel on her phone and then her computer trying to get her money out of Silicon Valley Bank.
That's yes. I know our fans would not be happy. But Charlie, if you got 20 minutes this weekend, I may actually call you to talk about this because I find it to be a fascinating topic. And I know your degree's in economics from NYU, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, see, I've been listening to all my podcasts about the Silicon Valley Bank fiasco. So
well, and in your little region, Zion's bank was under a lot of pressure on its stock price because people were thinking that all these regional banks were going to get rocked by bank runs. Yes, Josh, we can certainly talk about that. I would be happy to. I can spend.
Okay, all right.
I literally am just straight to the IV into my veins with this news. And SBF and then SVB. I don't know what's going on, but it's been a crazy year for acronyms. Anyway, it's sure the vibe at South by Southwest is a little different this year than usual.
You're going to have the music side where people are just like having a great time, and the tech industry where everyone's just like
the market
sweating.
is melted down. Anyway, so the matchup for you, Josh, is the new temporary course over at it's the open course at Harvey Penick. Temp just for the tournament. And of course, a new city on tour, Austin, Texas. And a just a great disc sports town, heart of like the disc golf universe in Texas. So, what do you think?
I am thrilled to see a new city on tour. I'm thrilled that the new city on tour came in the Texas swing. There are a lot of things that I love about the choice of Austin. 2 new cities, really, with Houston as well. So I love that. I'm very, very excited about new city on tour. That being said, though, I really like the ability for new cities to come on tour depends on the success of being able to pop up a temporary course and have it succeed on the first iteration. You can't come on tour your first year, put your temporary course up and have it flop and everyone say, wow, that course was terrible. You know what happens when that happens? When you do that, you get cut as an Elite Series event. See a Texas State.
That's true.
Like, right? You don't get do-overs if you flop hard as a kind of an experimental stop, right? To see how it goes. The ability of tournaments to just pop up temporary courses, have them succeed with just whether I don't know what trial runs have happened. I don't know if this course is used for other tournaments. I'm sure, and players have played it and have seen the layout. But if tournament directors and established tournament directors can go to cities and say, yep, we're going to put this course up. We're going to have it for an Elite Series event, and it's going to be great the first time you come here. I think that bodes really well for the future of being able to have more cities on tour. So because I think this is the linchpin to getting more cities on tour, I'm picking the new temporary course.
All right.
On the other half of this bracket, we have the South by Southwest Impact. What does it mean to have a disc golf tournament the same weekend as another big event that completely non-disc golf related in the same area versus the new FPO layout? This course has 4 division-specific baskets and 5 separate tee pads that will be utilized in the FPO layout.
Okay.
Charlie?
Yeah, so obviously the South by Southwest thing, I'm not sure how well we're going to be able to assess that from a distance. I'm sure that it's going to feel, if you're in Austin or you're traveling to Austin to visit this tournament, I mean, the energy is going to be awesome in town. I'm sure. You're going to have all kinds of stuff going on. There's going to be concerts you can go check out. There's going to be tons of food. I'm sure food trucks. Just the energy is going to be awesome. Whether that's translating into additional ticket sales. I mean, maybe, honestly.
Maybe.
Right? Because, you've got people who go to South by Southwest for work or because they go every year or because, whatever. And then they see, oh, I can also attend this disc golf tournament because I'm a disc golf fan. Maybe you buy a ticket. Maybe you have a day and you're like, hey, I'll go on Saturday and I'll go check out the disc golf tournament. I have to think that's going to at least sell some tickets. And, I'll save it for when we talk about it in a little bit because in the Final Four, the new temporary course, I mean, I guess New City on Tour already died. So let me bring it up here.
Okay.
I think that the reason that even if the course is bad, Josh, that this tournament is not going anywhere is because it has experienced longtime TDs and it's in Austin, Texas. And people have been asking about why is this thing the way that it is? Why are we doing a brand new course? Why is Waco adding a new golf course to its layout? There's some good mailbag. We're going to get to that next week. Money. At the end of the day, 4-round tournaments make more sense than 3-round tournaments from a ticket sales perspective. You tell me you don't think that Open at Austin is going to try to go to 4 rounds next year? Even if this course is terrible, they'll just be like, well, they're not doing that again. That sucked. Let's get 2 new courses and let's do a 4-round tournament and sell even more tickets. I mean, this is an entertainment business product at the end of the day. And being in big, now I don't want to say big cities necessarily, big disc golf cities like Austin and Portland and Charlotte, this is logical. This is better than Belton, right? Yeah. Waco absorbed all of the fans in the past from that area. And now there's like the Waco tournament, which had great spectating. And now we're also going to have the Austin tournament, which has great spectating. Texas is the #1 disc golf state in the country. It's up there with Finland as like a locale where disc golf is big deal. Mm-hmm. You have multiple manufacturers based in Texas who are doing big things. I think that, as much as the Texas swing has felt a little lackluster in the past, we're trending towards it being pretty good. Agreed. Because the money is there, the willingness to try to make it work well is there, and so that's what's happening. So sorry, I'm like totally off track. My answer to the question and my pick in the bracket is the FPO layout. To me, seeing the fact that they're going to have multiple, not only different tee pads, but also a lot of different baskets, which is not something you see that often, tells me that they're actually coming out of the gate and saying, how do we build a great FPO course? Now, the proof will be in the pudding. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give them all the credit in the world when we haven't seen players on the course yet, but it is very promising to me that we're seeing that, as opposed to all the same tee pads or only a few different tee pads. But half the holes are designed differently for FPO. That to me is an excellent sign that it's going to be well tuned to the division. So that's my pick. So Josh, we've got the temporary course versus the FPO layout. What's going to the Final Four? I think I stick to temporary course. It encompasses I the FPO too. Layout, does it not?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Okay.
But.
Go ahead.
Thank you for taking the FPO division seriously. How many times have we talked about it? And you're right. Maybe it's not quite. Maybe it's not great. Maybe it's not perfect. We'll reserve a little bit of judgment here. But like you said, it shows a thought and consideration that I think has sometimes been overlooked. And that just thank you, great job. That already is a great step in the first direction. Even if we don't have it down perfect, and there's still testing to do in order to get this right. Great job for at least thinking about it.
A step in the first direction. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, Final Four, over/under picks. Don't go anywhere.
Pound's the best of the best. It's the quality, the craftsmanship, the vision for what a bag could be. Let's start from the beginning. I didn't choose Pound, I chose Levi. I trusted Levi to make the best bag possible.
He's always trying to innovate. He wants it to be perfect. And I think he's the kind of guy that nothing's ever perfect.
I trust the product. I trust the people behind the product.
At this point, I don't think anyone's disputing that it's the best made bag.
Welcome back to the Upshot. We've got the Final Four coming up right now, and Josh, the opening matchup in the Final Four is Simon Lizotte versus the Lone Star Spotlight. What are you taking to the finals?
I'm taking Simon Lizotte. I think the Lone Star impact is kind of like the big picture, but you also did a really good job highlighting in that big picture why there are other things completely unrelated to Lone Star that we're going to be watching this week. Being in Austin, the temporary course, the FPO layout. I mean, there's so many other big picture things to look at that are not related to on-course performance that I have a hard time saying that Lone Star is like the thing that needs to be watched. And when it comes to a bracket, that's what it has to do in order to win a bracket. So I think though, when we look at the on-course performance of all the players coming up, the one I'm probably going to be watching the closest is Simon Lizotte this week. Of any player, any division, this is the one that is the most interesting storyline to me. And given that that's the case, I pick Simon Lizotte to advance to the finals.
Yeah, we like, where's Simon on the leaderboard? I agree.
I'm going to check every round.
It's like him and Kristen feel like the most must-watch type of players right now. Okay, what's my matchup?
You have Gannon Buhr going up against the new temporary course that encompasses the FPO layout.
As interesting as I think the Gannon Buhr storyline is, I do think that the course is going to take center stage for me this weekend because it's brand new to the tour, and we don't really get that many brand new courses on the Elite Series at all. What, like, are there any others this whole year? Like, I'm flipping through in my mind, and I don't think so. Like, there's some other silvers that have been elevated to the Elite Series, but those are going to be on courses we know.
There's some brand new silver events,
yes,
that are on courses we haven't seen.
That's a different thing. Right? That's a different animal.
Yes, I agree.
So this is like very unique, and it also makes things like picks really hard because you're like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we kind of have a sense of what this course is about, but that's for sure going to be the number one thing to be watching this weekend is like, what is this course all about? And how does it feel? Because that, as you articulated earlier, that's going to be the thing that determines the success of the event. Is how's the course? Is it entertaining?
We will.
So I've got the course going to the final. So it's Simon Lizotte versus the course, Josh. I got to go course.
I agree with you here.
Yeah. And that's no surprise.
Yeah. As much as Simon's on-course performance is going to be something that we watch, it is everybody's on-course performance that is determined by this layout.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It is. It is all connected back to the fact that this is a new layout. What does this layout mean for the future of temporary layouts that are on pop-up courses? And it's a course that is not like a lot that we see on tour. It's shorter, it's technical, but it is on a golf course. I mean, you have LVC that is shorter, but still really is defined by its long open fairways. Waco is shorter, but very, very technical and not on a golf course. Portland is really long, if not, if it does, even though it still does have some technicality. This is unique. It's a unique profile. And one that I should also add, I think is very replicable. I think about my municipal golf courses and think about like what our shots could be, distances, and a 9,000 foot MPO, 9,500 foot MPO layout through trees with a good variety of hills and elevation is exactly what I would picture if a pro tour event was to come to my city.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of course I would like to see built in New York City alongside of an existing golf course layout. Like that's what would have to be, right? You put it on a muni golf course, you build in and around the trees, you don't really utilize the fairways except for some airspace, but mostly you're playing in and around the trees, which is what this course looks like. It as is pointed out in the preview on Ulti-World Disc Golf, it's not really comparable to an existing golf course layout on tour because Emporia and Swenson and Glendoveer are way longer. And you look at Wild Horse for LVC, and it doesn't have nearly the kind of, trees. It's more of a bomber open type course. So look, 8,727 feet for MPO, 7,984 for FPO. It's fairly short. So you see short plus golf course, you think it's going to be too easy. But I don't know, like looking at the practice rounds, most of the shots are on the technical side. And there's some tightly wooded holes. There's a lot of, you have to have a specific landing zones. There's lots of OB in play. You've got, 12 different bunkers that are hazard, and you've got a bunch of OB golf greens. That's typical, but they're being utilized in a way to create the challenge of this course. So we'll see how it all plays. And I think this is the only way you can really do temporary courses. They have to be on golf courses, pretty much. Unless you have some miraculous land. And then you have to figure out how do you make it hard with the trees that you have on location.
the one other thing I wanted to highlight, you said this is what you want to see in New York, right? Which I'm sure you want to see in New York permanently. But Simon highlighted he wants more tournaments at big airport locations. Fans also want tournaments at big airport locations. If I had tournaments that were easy for me to fly to and stay in that city without having to get a rental car to drive another 3 hours to get to a course, it would be much more accessible for me, someone who doesn't have a lot of tournaments around in my direct locale. Imagine if the tournament was half disc golf hubs, right? Austin, Charlotte, Portland, and half New York, LA, Chicago, on municipal golf courses, because they able to successfully create and replicate this model and show a model of profitability for the golf courses that they use. This is a storyline that is must watch.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our bracket. Congratulations to the course for winning the bracket. We now get to our picks and our over under. Josh, I'll hit you with the over under right now.
Okay.
After day one, so not including feature cards, over under 1.5 Lone Star players on the lead card in either round 2 or 3.
Ooh,
the same player being on both only counts for 1. So you don't get...
Okay, so it's unique players.
Over under 1.5 Lone Star players on a lead card after, in rounds 2 or 3. Either division.
Okay, all right.
Deanne Carey looking good last week.
Nico still playing pretty well.
Emerson at home.
At LVC, yeah. I am still going to take the under because I think one of them probably will, but two, I'm gonna go one. I'm gonna take one. It's a big field. They're big fields, so I'm gonna take the under.
Okay, there you go. Let's get to our picks. Obviously, not a whole lot to go off of here. I will note that Chris Dickerson and Katrina Allen, who won Open at Belton, are both on the feature card on day one. Even though this is not, I don't know, it's hard. Same TDs, totally different course. In many ways, totally different tournament. But some continuity anyway on that front. But we obviously don't know much how the course will play besides the sort of practice round videos we've seen. So you got to pick with limited information set, Josh. So who are you taking in MPO?
In my 3 spot, I have Paul McBeth. Paul has not been as sharp as I think we expected Paul out of the gate. He's a multi-time winner at Waco. Probably would have expected better than 16th. But he still is third place in the DGPT standings.
I will also note McBeth was playing much better than 16th finish and pressed late. And
agreed.
Yeah.
It was 13 finish. Sorry, I said 6. It was 13. But anyway, I agree. And so I think that I really think Paul has a good chance to continue playing well. And it's just one of those threats that there are some players who you pick because you think that this course sets up well. And then there are other players because they could at any weekend win a tournament, regardless of where it's at. And that's Paul, right? If you had to pick one player to keep consistent on the MPO site who you always picked, Paul is one that I think is a very natural pick. There are others, but that's kind of the justification for Paul. Next, Kevin Jones.
You're all over the Kevin Jones picks right now.
I'm all over the Kevin Jones trade. I was in the offseason, and it's only proven true. He has not missed the top 5 yet.
It's true.
Outside, Paul, if you get rid of his silver event, which was the win last season, Kevin is third on tour right now in Disc Golf Pro Tour standings, and he's the top player without a win right now. I love Kevin Jones. 2 reasons why, especially at this course now, based on what I do know. Shorter and technical, already proved he did well at Waco. We know Kevin can play that kind of style. He's won GMC before. But it also is the kind of distance and golf course that I think sets up for, in the ways of LVC, forehand, backhand, right? Like the variety of shots that are going to test Kevin. And it's not just a Heiser fest as well. But I'm thinking there's probably going to be some more airspace than a Waco, as you kind of mentioned. I like Kevin for that. I give Kevin the number 2 pick. My winner, though, Calvin Heimberg. He is playing like a player of the year candidate. He's got a win already, third place at Waco, and this course almost feels like if LVC and Waco were mixed, kind of in its features and the way we're talking about it. And that, well, Calvin's played great so far on those courses. And that kind of consistency is one that I think Calvin's going to be able to maintain. Even if I don't get the win from Calvin here, I think I get a couple of points. And of the players I look at, Calvin just feels like odds-on favorite. If there were Vegas odds right now, I feel like he would be the odds-on
Calvin's
favorite.
an auto include on the podium right now.
Yeah.
It's just, for the start of the year, you have to. Ricky hasn't been playing yet. Paul not that sharp yet. Got it.
Eagle not that sharp. Yeah.
Okay, my picks, I think very solid picks, Josh. Gannon Buhr is for me in the number 3 spot. It just feels like bounce back tournament time, doesn't it? It just feels like bounce back time tournament. The lawsuit is in the rearview mirror now. And it's just time to go out there and be like, I'm better than this. And I think we see that from Calvin. From Gannon. Calvin, though, is in my number 2 spot, not my number 1 spot.
Must include.
There's not much more to say. I mean, he's like he's got it. I mean, I honestly wanted to pick him, and I just wanted to. I didn't want to do the same thing as you in this case. So I'm picking Paul McBeth. Look,
okay, yeah,
Paul. It's classic Paul to be like one thing in the game a little off. Circle 2 putting. It's been the problem. And then we'll just see him lock it in and be awesome. Just feels like one of those weekends where the course is asking you to be versatile, and no more versatile player than Paul. And I think he will have practiced a lot on the putting to get right for this weekend. So I like him to take it down. And again, I just don't think he was as far away as it sort of looks like on the final leaderboard when you look back at last week. So I'm taking McBeth. Over in FPO, in my 3 spot, I've got Own Scoggins.
I love that.
I mean, she's been automatic. She's got some streak of top 3s going. Why not again?
She was 8th at LVC.
Ruining the narrative.
Sorry.
But I mean, that doesn't surprise me. I mean,
no, it doesn't surprise me either.
Care, right?
Yeah,
like this is a shorter course.
Agreed.
This is fine. This is fine. This is own.
Yeah.
This is own season. Like lots of forehand shots. Great.
Yes.
And I just, she's like, geez. I mean, she was one of the top tee to green players last week at Waco. I don't see why she couldn't do it again. In fact, I think this is like kind of like a sneaky spot for Own to maybe win.
Ooh.
I don't know much about the course, but it's short enough that I think that it's like danger territory for Own, right? She could win it. In the 2 spot, I've got Haley King. Just really like the look of the game right now for Haley. And I can't pick her to win because I have to take Kristen Tatar, because how can you not take Kristen Tatar? Even when she's not right, she wins. What are we supposed to do here, folks? To me, this just like Kristen is number 1 on the podium until further notice. I already tried my luck at not picking Kristen last week, and I rolled. I 7'd out, Josh.
Yeah. On my FPO picks last week, I put Hannah Blomroos on my leaderboard. And I last second before we were doing it, our picks, I pulled Ella Hansen off. And what a dumb decision that was. I got Ella Hansen in my number 3 spot. I have loved the way that she's played. And even if I don't think she's going to lock it out, she is showing us that this is a season where you have to reckon with Ella. And when you have conversations about who's going to be the win, even if Ella isn't the favorite in any of those weeks. And right now, I don't know if she will be. With Kristen, I don't know if Ella will be a favorite at any tournament. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't think about Ella at every tournament. And so that's why I've got her in my 3 spot. Missy Gannon, I've got in the 2 spot. A little bit shorter, the technicality, that just bodes well for Missy. And Missy had a really, really nice finish at LVC. Second place. And that's not a course you'd really expect from that. A little bit worse at Waco, but I'm hoping that she has a bounce back week here. And I like Missy for my number 2 spot. Number 1 spot though, Kristen Tatar. Number 1 until she gives me a reason not to. And I don't have a reason not to, especially coming off of a win. And what is it going to take to stop thinking, oh yeah, Kristen could win in any given week? How is it? Because like a 5th place finish or a 10th place finish even doesn't mean next week I don't think she's going to win. A re-injury would. Or like how long does she have to finish outside the podium? Like how far down does she have to be and how long to finally say, okay, we can pick somebody other than Kristen. But in the meantime, even when Kristen wasn't winning, she didn't miss the podium last year. And if you're always that much in the mix, it doesn't make sense to ever pick anybody else.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
Kristen Tatar's got my spot too.
There you go. Currently, we're tied in the picks competition, Josh. We're at 7 points apiece. And we're not leading, though, because now over at discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks, you, if you're a subscriber, can log in from Discord and make your own picks against us. Currently, Hampton is in the lead, solo leader with 11 points, buoyed largely by picking Katrina and Calvin to win at LVC, and had Kristen Waco. So 3 for 4 on winner picks to start the year, piling up the points. And so we'll see if Hampton can keep it up. But Josh, we're near the top of the leaderboard for now. So
we're tied for 4th.
Yeah,
tied for 4th is fine. Yeah.
So anyway, get a subscription. Get our Rapid React segments. Sunday night, Open at Austin Rapid Reacts. And, of course, all of our subscriber bonus content, as well as the Discord, picks, etc. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you Sunday night for the Rapid Reacts from the Open at Austin. Looking forward to it, Josh.
Mm-hmm.